What's up, everybody? My name is Daniel Unmanageable, and this is Hard Knocks Talks. Tonight's live production is brought to you in part by Prairie Sky Recovery Center, Possibilities Recovery Center, the Elizabeth Fry Society of Saskatchewan, the Community Addictions Peer Support Association, and Stronger Together Canada peer-led support groups by Mom Stop the Harm, and Carter's Counseling. I forgot to put that in there. I'm sorry, Catherine, if you're watching. Carter's Counseling has just joined the ranks of Hard Knocks Talk supporters. So, tonight's guest, Christopher Morasti, is joining us to tell us his story of overcoming incredible odds with addiction, foster care, and gang life to become the founder and leader for the non-profit organization Men of the North. And we are going to meet him right after this. I spent 23 years living in addiction. 16 of those years, I worked as a Red Seal tradesperson in Saskatchewan and Northern Alberta. During that time, I made many mistakes and took more than a few hard knocks. I went from tradesman to business owner to hiding from gang members and dumpster diving. But with that lived experience, I've decided to try and make a change. I've dedicated my life to raising awareness and promoting change in the fields of substance use and psychological health and safety. So join me and my guests as we take off the blinders around mental health in our communities and at work, and shine a light on what's working and what's not working in the fields of mental health and occupational health and safety. I'm Daniel Unmanageable, and I'll be your host, and this is Hard Knocks Talks.
Hey.
All right, well, there's Chris. Let's bring him in.
Hey, how's everybody? How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. How are you, man?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Just relaxing, getting my composure and getting things in order.
Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we get started tonight?
Well, I definitely would like to, thank our elders, thank our youth, thank everybody who's out there watching today, watching the show. And if you have a problem or are struggling out there, it is your moral, your moral obligation to reach out to any lifeline that is presented to you. So there are definitely numbers out there that you can communicate with. There are people out there in your communities that you can definitely get in contact with. You just have to go above and beyond and get outside that comfort zone.
All right, let's go. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like growing up?
Well, for me, it was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of alcohol. There was a lot of drugs. A lot of faces and people on which I didn't know personally, especially growing up as a child in my home, where I guess drugs and alcohol were really affecting the home environment. So for me, being the eldest of three siblings, it was growing up with a lot of responsibilities, growing up very fast, making sure that my siblings made it to school, they had lunch packs and all that, and made sure that things were properly taken care of at home, even though I was just a child myself. So being raised
single mom
in a
too,
home like that,
correct?
Single mom, mom, very, I guess, dependent on alcohol and drugs during her times of addictions and stuff like that. So for me, it was definitely a struggle. It was definitely a struggle, and oftentimes we would find ourselves in foster child or foster care. So in that type of system, growing up in there definitely had its um, negative impacts, I guess,
Hmm.
as we got older, especially becoming more dependent towards alcohol at young ages, definitely having that separation anxiety, having the anxiety, having the depression, and going through the foster care system. And I mean, like these people, man, like they are not anywhere means as any type of good people. Like there are some pretty fucked up people looking after these foster homes.
Hmm.
So back in the I guess early '80s, I mean late '80s, early '90s, in those types of system, I don't know if there was the um, things put in place back then as they have now. Maybe there's a lot more structure and a lot more supports to the foster care system. But not mind you though, like I'm not saying that going to a foster home or a foster care system is okay. I know that growing up for me it was definitely a lot. It bring in a lot of negative impacts and affected me growing up as a young man.
Yeah.
Um, definitely helped or definitely put in a lot of struggles and a lot of emotional and mental, physical, and even sometimes even sexual abuse
Mm.
in through these foster care systems.
Did you have any positive role models?
Growing up, very rare. It was very
Hmm.
hard to because I was like I said, I was so enacted into the alcohol and drug scene.
Hmm.
My mother, being, I guess, kind of like she was unstable, so it would be sit down and uh, maybe for a year we'd be stationary in one position, and
Hmm.
then after shit hits the fan with her relationship or whatever, we would just kind of pack up and then we would go off to another area or another part of the province, or
Hmm.
even move another province over. And so it wasn't stable. There was no stability growing up.
So, were you ever, when you were apprehended, were you ever placed with other family members? Like, did you have like any family members that were taking care of you other than your mom?
Growing up in, I guess, the city of Saskatoon was definitely not, I guess, the means for families in the cities and stuff like that was not there
Hmm.
as it definitely would have been. Definitely would have been a good thing to go to definitely to a family member. But who knows? Maybe back then, being placed in a family wasn't thought of as much as it is perhaps today. So
Hmm.
it was definitely very rare for us to go stay with being apprehended and then being placed with another family member
Hmm.
somewhere maybe across the city or whatever. But it was
Yeah.
very rare. So oftentimes we'd be sent to go stay with grandparents during the summer times
Mm.
and all that type of stuff too. So it was
Was it
definitely challenging.
how was school? Like, did you make friends easy?
School was, yeah, definitely struggles. Definitely struggles. You growing up in a not so healthy environment
Hmm.
and being a young man, lots of anger, lots of resentment, lots of emotional damage, and bringing that into a school is definitely grew up to be more on the bully sense, on the bully side.
Hmm.
Definitely into I guess stealing, um, being like being withdrawn from classes, coming and going whenever I please. So school in I guess the elementary and the early high school days is definitely it was definitely a challenge for me,
Hmm.
and being ADHD as well was definitely even more challenging because reading definitely wasn't my cup of tea, that's for sure. So it was
Yeah.
definitely had a lot of challenges and had a lot of things in there that were placed in front of me that did not go to my liking, I guess.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times is, you're getting suspended, you're
Yeah.
getting expelled for doing, stupid stuff,
Hmm.
stupid shit. You're definitely picking on people that you don't know anything about. You don't know who they are or the types of struggles that they have or the type of challenges that they have at home. And they're coming to school to get away from that. And you're picking on them now. Like, oh man, I
Yeah.
look back and I just, the
Yeah.
type of stupid stuff. But like I said, like, you know, today is the way I see it is today, a lot of these youth today have a lot more challenges in front of them because growing up as a child as I was, I never had social media. There was no Facebook, there was no
Yeah.
Instagram,
No hard
Twitters,
knocks talks.
TikToks, and none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So when we did that stupid shit, that stupid shit was kind of, you dealt with the consequences, and
Hmm.
then that was it. There was no putting on social media
Yeah.
and it being streamed and broadcasted, worldwide. So a lot of these kids and youth today, oh man, they have some tough challenges.
Yeah. How
Definitely
old were
feel for them.
you? Sorry. How old were you the first time you got loaded?
I would say probably 12 years old. 12 years old, I started drinking as, like I said, growing up in a unhealthy environment where drugs and alcohol were the weekend thing, especially being, living with my mother and stuff like that. So it was easily accessible to me
Hmm.
growing up. So, come Saturday morning when everybody's passed out, there's a half a box of beer or whatever sitting there.
Hmm.
Well, I'd grab that and I'd go over to buddy's house and, we'd go and have one or two and then instant gratification. Like there was
Yeah, man.
dopamines, man, they started clicking
Everything's okay.
and I knew that, this was going to be a problem. And being that young and knowing that, like,
Like at
that
12 years old, you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna be bad. Like you were thinking that already? I was
already at 12 years old, man, like
I
I
wasn't
knew
thinking
that
that
there
when I
was.
was 12. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I do this all the time.
So come 14 years old, I
Yeah.
was already labeled, an alcoholic at 14 years old,
Hmm.
and then at 13 years old, going on my first high speed chase,
Hmm.
and hearing my mother scream as I'm coming up the courtroom stairs, in an orange jumpsuit, shackled from my ankles to my wrists, and hearing my mother scream in such a way that was so frightening and so haunting, and I'll never forget the sound of her voice or the sound of that scream,
Hmm.
and then the echo that just bounced off the walls in that courtroom foyer. So for me, it was definitely something that hit, definitely a memory in me that will definitely never forget.
Yeah.
So dealing with that, and struggling with that because now you're locked in the system.
Hmm.
So every time that the cops pull you over on the streets or something like that, they're harassing you. They're, bringing in your name and knowing that you have, a curfew to abide by. You got conditions to abide by. So you got these blanket of conditions to abide by, and so they have reasons to pick you up and throw you in the back of the panel and say that you're being mischievous, and next thing you know you're going up, being arrested for mischief charges that you definitely had no intentions on even doing. But now you're locked in the system, so you broke that system of trust, and now the RCMP are breathing down your throat every time that they see you, and they start to know you by your first name. That is bad news, man.
That's bad news.
Once they start knowing you by your first name,
Yeah.
you're in for a world of hurt because now
Yeah.
you are locked in the system that is so definitely hard to get out of.
Yeah, you got a target
And
on.
oh yeah, like there's a bullseye every time that you're walking down the street late at night. You pass curfew. Oh, you're coming. We're gonna put you under arrest. Put another charge on you for breach of probation, and your cycle just keeps on increasing and increasing and increasing, and it's so hard to get out of that system once
Yeah.
you are locked in there. And I know that for a lot of these young men out there today, they're not much resources and tools to help them
Yeah, I refreshed
to
me.
stay out of that system. So definitely having that resource and tools definitely there to help mitigate and to minimize the outcomes and to help me get out of that system was definitely lacking, I guess.
So how was prison? You went in for that high
Yeah,
speed chase, correct?
I was 6 months into juvenile detention. It's definitely a struggle for sure. It was definitely something that I didn't ever plan on doing, and definitely don't ever want to be back in that system again. But sometimes learning the hard way and taking that hard knocks talk, I guess, or that
Oh
hard knock,
yes.
and definitely learning from that
Hmm.
experience definitely put me in a I guess a better state of mind, knowing that you've been through this tyranny or this struggle. Now what can you do on starting to fix it and to do better?
Hmm.
So soon after that, we moved out of Brandon, Manitoba. My mother moved us to our home community of Green Lake, Saskatchewan, and going to school there. And then after school, getting out of there and going straight to the oil rigs,
Mm.
which was bad, which was bad,
Was
bad news for me.
couldn't have been that bad.
Oh man, like you're making good money now,
Hmm.
and drugs and alcohol are so easily accessible. I know
Hmm.
that the after work it was stop by the nearest off sale, pick up a box of beer, and then take your way home and
Hmm.
hitting every sign along the scenic routes, and then one time if you get home, you're being an alcoholic that I was, or I am, I should
Hmm.
say. Um, one or two beers wasn't good enough. It
Hmm.
was one or two beers, and then I'm starting to feel jivey. I'm starting to feel good. Well, now it's let's get up and go out to the bar for a few, and then once you go out to that bar, those few beers start kicking in, and then well, it's time to get some cocaine.
Yeah.
Now let's
Yeah.
start calling up some drug dealers and let's
Yeah.
start getting, you know, and then once you get into that drunken feeling, that drunken state, then you're looking at ways on how to balance yourself. And honestly, cocaine is, one of the drugs that I chose to
Hmm.
help balance and to try accommodate that not being so drunk and so being so out of it, to
Yeah.
help me function, through the nights.
Yeah.
So go out party till about 2 or 3 in the morning, and then have to wake up for 5 a.m. and then
Mm.
do it all over again.
Do you ever get involved in any gang stuff?
Oh yeah, when I was teenagers, like I said, when I stole that vehicle, I was just in the brinks of joining the gang, and being that was part of our initiation was to go out and steal vehicles and to supply other gang members rides to go do, their work for them, whether it be go to drop off some marijuana or some drugs or whatever, go pick up some beer, go in and get some money, and then bring them back, and then go and do whatever, joyride for a little while, and then get rid of the vehicle. And
Hmm.
that night was yeah, it was an unfortunate circumstance that we seen the cherry lights in behind, and
Yeah.
that
Oh
was
shit.
it. Yeah, that
I
was
bet you
it.
that's
That was
something else you'll never forget too. Hey, those cherries coming
oh
on.
100%. I mean, it was
Yeah.
such a It definitely a burnt in memory.
Yeah,
Once we seen
yeah.
those red and blues come on behind us, it was hammer down and
Oh
leave.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went on this, 15, 20 minute high speed chase.
Hmm.
And then it ended up into a foot chase, into, being arrested and charged,
Hmm.
and going through that whole court system and the whole jail process. Definitely, definitely is not a good experience for
0 out of 10. Would not recommend.
Would not recommend.
Hmm.
There's
So
so much to. Oh, what?
no, no. Finish your thought.
Well, there's so much to go through with life that gangs, jail,
Hmm.
all that type of stuff is just, there's so much more to, especially now you have kids, you have a family, you have things to do, you have responsibilities.
Hmm.
And to me, it took me, a lot of years to actually get out of that cycle of this self destruction, and get myself onto that right positive path.
Yeah.
So being in, when I grew up and left school, now I'm in the oil patch, and being, I guess, so addicted to drugs and alcohol
Hmm.
that I started seeing myself losing jobs. And working in the oil patch, when you wake up and there's light shining through your window, you knew you fucked up. And
Hmm.
being an alcoholic that I was, or being alcoholic that I am, that was not a good feeling for sure.
Yeah.
And you do that 2 or 3 times in a week, you might as well kiss your job goodbye. And I
Hmm.
did that probably more than once. And especially being a province over from my home community, definitely puts on a lot more struggles.
Hmm.
And so when I had my first child, I had my first child at the age of 22. Um, and I think it was about her 9 months, no, about 6 months, I think, we ended up losing her to foster care due to alcohol and drugs and domestic violence. And she ended up getting apprehended from us. And then my spouse, or my partner at the time, ended up moving back to Saskatoon. And I stayed there in Alberta, trying to make sure that I'm there to support her and to continue with the weekly visits that we had set up with the, I guess, social services at that time. And like I said, like, you're going out to go to a visit and stuff like that, and you're 3/4 drunk,
Hmm.
and taking 1 or 2 lines of cocaine to straighten yourself
Yeah,
out,
you
so
think
that way
that you're
you
like
can.
you're gonna be better if you're like loaded somehow. Like, oh, I
Oh
can't. I got
man,
to just level myself out. Yeah, I've been there. I've been
it's
there.
definitely a hell of a struggle,
Hmm.
man. You have your child sitting on social services, you're jobless, you're
Hmm.
homeless, because now, after the situation escalated, and living in an apartment at the time,
Hmm.
everybody heard the domestic situation. So now you got a 24-hour eviction notice, and now you got to move your shit out, and no place to go, no job. Children's and social services, man, those thoughts of suicide were fucking high.
Yeah,
They were
man.
high.
Hmm.
And but when we have those challenges in our faces and stuff like that, and being, who I was at that time, too addicted to drugs and alcohol, it was running to the bottle to relieve some of that pain, some of that suffering, looking for a temporary fix. So I would stay, drunk for 3 or 4 days, because I did
Hmm.
not want to feel that pain. I did not want to know that my child, my firstborn child, was apprehended and behind, and staying at somebody else's house, somebody that I never met in my life,
Hmm.
somebody I probably never will meet in my life. And I'm, sitting there now, jobless, homeless, and maybe 2 or 3 nickels to my name, and I'm sitting there, going to bed drunk, waking up, and having more and more alcohol right next to my on my nightstand, so that way when I get up, I can just start drinking right away and
Mm-hmm.
forget about that pain, forget about that anger, and see where the drugs and alcohol take me that day.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's challenging,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you are caught up in your addictions, man. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever had to deal with, especially losing my first child to social services. I
Mm-hmm.
did not feel like a man at that time because, a man's supposed to be the protector,
Yeah.
supposed to be the provider, supposed to be doing all this, and you can't even now protect your own child from the, I guess, negative effects of the world because she's not even in your care anymore, or she or he is not even in your care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a fucking challenge.
Yeah.
So
So, did your coworkers ever, like, when you were in the patch, and did your coworkers ever be like, "Hey man, like you got to do something, like you ain't right."
absolutely not, absolutely not. They
Mm-hmm.
they would encourage. They would actually encourage, and they would actually, be there to support
The habit.
the habit for
Mm-hmm.
sure. So they would be basically start you off and then drop you off at home, and then you go out and do it again. And even at the time, my supervisors would definitely allow me to come to work, intoxicated, even high at sometimes, and they wouldn't say anything as long as I did my job. I didn't fall asleep, being on the floor. As long as I got the job done,
Mm-hmm.
everybody made it home safe. Everybody made it to the crew truck safe. I was basically encouraged. I was encouraged. It was definitely there was definitely a lot of struggles for sure with the alcohol
Yeah.
and drugs when I was working in the oil patch for myself, anyways. And I'm not saying that goes it blankets the whole oil patch, but I know for myself
Just personal experience.
it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
And
So, you were in a relationship with your first daughter's mother. What happened there? Like, did that end when your daughter was apprehended, or how did that go?
yeah, oh yes, definitely. We seen that there was an unhealthy situation that was manifesting itself within our own lives,
Mm-hmm.
and there was only two options: is whether we wanted to quit drinking or we wanted to stay in the relationship and continue using. Which at the time I was so hurt. I was so spiteful. I was so resentful that I just wanted to continue with my addiction and continue forgetting about the responsibilities of the world and continue using. And so she ended up packing up, moving back to Saskatoon, and there we never really made amends. There was kind of sometimes when I go down to visit her and stuff like that, we'd get together for a little whiles, but it often ended in very negative outcomes, especially through our drinking and
Mm-hmm.
drug using type. So it was definitely an unhealthy, very toxic relationship
Mm-hmm.
that was not good for any of us. So
So there was never any time where you guys weren't drinking and using. Like, you guys were together, and that was it. You'd drink and use, and that was how life was.
that was basically it. Or just basically, what do you would call it? Addiction partners,
Mm-hmm.
or people with supporting one another's addictions and all that type of stuff. So it was definitely not a relationship to continue working on and trying to get healthy and get stronger. So
Yeah.
we just eventually separated.
Mm-hmm.
That my daughter ended up staying with me full time, and I wouldn't say that it necessarily got any better, because now I'm working in oil patch, raising my child, and trying to do better for us. But I'm still, you
Like
know,
taking her on the road?
yeah, like definitely taking her out to the oil patch and working with her and finding sitters and stuff like that. It was definitely challenging,
I bet.
especially when I moved now back to Saskatchewan and worked out of Swift Current for a while there in the oil patch down there, and definitely had some challenges and some struggles there. So it was definitely a rough road through the drugs and alcohol. And
Hmm.
I knew it for a fact because when I was sitting on my bed thinking, what the fuck am I doing wrong in my life? What can I do to make things better? And right there, I think that was a turning point in my life.
So tell us, you had this awakening. So what next? Like you get up off the bed and then what?
I went to see an addictions counselor. I
Mm-hmm.
went to see an addictions counselor, and I walked in, and I was drunk. I got to admit, I was drunk. I went there, and I was down basically on my knees begging for help. And so this lady took me in. She says, "Hey, Christopher, this is what we can do for you. But you got to remember that if we put you through this program, you're going to have to want this program. We're not going to force you into this program, but you're going to have to want this program."
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, I was desperate. I was desperate. Like I said, I was homeless, jobless, and my child was sitting in foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I made the decision. So I checked myself in for a treatment program, and I went to one of the treatment programs in Alberta. And I think it was a 3 month treatment program, which, man, 110% loved it. I loved it. It was
Mm-hmm.
such a warming experience to get myself into that treatment program. Uh, just learning about traumas and effects, especially doing all that inner child work, that healing, those group discussions and those councils, those individual one-on-one sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I couldn't ask for anything better.
Mm-hmm. Did they kick your ass around too? Oh, what happened? Hang on a second here. Uh-oh. We lost him. Uh-oh. Okay, hang on a second here.
And
Oh,
so,
he's coming back.
oh man, that's
No, 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 no. We're good. You're coming
oh, we're
back.
good.
No.
Okay,
Okay, you're
was
back.
that on my end?
Well, you froze. I don't know what happened on your end, but you were just like
Oh,
frozen
okay.
on this end on both cameras. I'm like, this has never happened. I don't know what to do now.
Oh, jeez.
So
Well, let's roll with it.
let's
So
roll.
I was sit I
Oh,
was sitting in that oh no, we're freezing up again.
is there
Oh
somebody
no.
watching TV or using computers somewhere else in your house right now?
Um I don't know, and I cannot leave the live scene and go and check on that. I hope
Yeah, you
that
can. I've got a be
uh
right back scene.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
let's hit that button and let's be right back.
let's do it.
Oh man,
Okay.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, man. We're
Sorry about
prepared. We got the be right back thing.
that. Hundred
Yeah.
percent.
All
No,
right.
I love it. Love it.
Right on.
So growing up, going into this addictions counselor's office, basically down on my knees, hands and knees, begging for some help. She checked me into this 3-month treatment program.
Hmm.
Best thing in my life. Everything went good. Checked out of there. I ended
How was
up
it? How was
getting.
it getting out? Before we get too far ahead, how was like?
Oh,
Did you not like? Because like I know when I went in, like I was like I don't want to be here, and then halfway through I'm like I don't want to leave. So like, how was it?
it was definitely hard, man. When I went in, and same thing. I felt that boot. Like, I definitely didn't want to be here.
Hmm.
This is bullshit. This is not going to help.
Yeah.
I had all those thoughts and all those feelings going through my mind that this was not going to be helpful at all for me, and things are not going to go the way that I want them to go. So, being in that program, about a month into the program, man, I thought it was the best thing ever.
Hmm.
I absolutely loved it. It was such a safe environment for me to be at.
Hmm.
I felt like I could just be who I am, be myself, be normal,
Good food.
and yeah, good food,
Hmm.
good people, good counselors.
Hmm.
Yeah, the whole thing was definitely 110%.
Hmm.
And so, coming closer to my completion date, um, definitely a lot of mixed feelings, scared.
Hmm.
You are going back now into the belly of the beast,
Yeah, man.
and you go down to Saskatoon or any of those main streets there, and it's all off sale, off sale, off sale. You
Hmm.
see it everywhere. You see it everywhere, and man, it was definitely hard. It was definitely hard. I guess bouncing out of that treatment program, completing it, and then
Hmm.
going back, and from there on, being down on my luck, not having a place on my own, and then now I'm getting access to my child now. I'm being granted the primary care of my child, and so I had to go stay with my mother, and my mother was living in the Losh at the time.
Hmm. And she
And
found recovery, correct?
yes, yes, my mother has definitely found the recovery. She'd been sober. Oh, I can't remember how long. I think it's got to be well over 12 years now. I believe
Hmm.
that she's been sober for, and so she was really a good support when I went stayed with her for a while. And then I found myself a little time job there working for Children's North, I think it was called Children's First North,
Hmm.
and it was definitely challenging. You're in an environment, in a community you know nothing about. You don't know how to speak the language, and a lot of these kids that I was working with, that's all their first language was Dene, and that's all they knew how to speak. So you're trying to communicate with them, and trying to get to know them, and it was challenging. It was very challenging. And during that time, there was a suicide crisis going on. They were losing a lot of youth during that time. It was, two, maybe one or two youth in that weekend. And it was almost to the point where mushums and cookums were basically handcuffing themselves to their grandchildren
Hmm.
on a Friday evening, and then releasing them from their handcuffs Monday morning so they can go to school.
Wow.
It was, it was, it was bad. Like, and I think the community, they called for resources, they called for supports, and all that type of stuff. And I don't know if there was the adequatable supports and resources at that time, and all that, and the challenges and the struggles within the community themselves kind of fell through the cracks. So we kept on having a lot of the children start coming to their struggles, should come into their negative outcomes through a suicide. And I'd be working with a child, on Friday evening. Come Monday morning, hearing this child ended up committing suicide was very detrimental to my mental health. It was almost like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what
Yeah.
am I trying to do here?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very challenging. It was definitely very challenging. And I think I lasted probably about 8 months before I turned to the bottle again.
Yeah.
And then
Well, you
from
lost your
there,
grandmother, right?
it was soon after I lost my grandmother. And then, going through the challenges there in the wash with all the youth, committing suicides and all the
Yeah.
challenges just in self, and then finding sustainable employment to help me to overcome a lot of the challenges and pressures of life. Was just, very, was very, well, I don't know. I guess it would be
Overwhelming.
very challenging and overwhelming for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so coming to the, defeats and pressures, I started drinking again. I went back to using, drugs and alcohol, and this lasted for a while. And then it wasn't until I met my wife that I'm married to now. Love you, wife Christiana.
She watching
Thank you
right
for
now?
everything. She might be. I don't know. Maybe that was buggering up our
Yeah.
connection
Well, she's
here.
not anymore because.
So, meeting her and going through that challenges with my alcohol and drugs, she gave me the ultimatum. She says, "Hey, Christopher, uh, look at what type of shit that you're bringing in. I never been with, I never had a relationship where the other half was using drugs and alcohol as much as you are.
Mhm.
And either you want to make this relationship work and last, then you're going to have to give this shit up." And it wasn't until I think we were in Rome in Europe when I made a complete ass of myself. Um, you know, drinking alcohol that I had no idea how to pronounce. I'm drinking this stuff, and I soon found myself, just being a sloppy, despicable drunk
Mhm.
in the streets of Rome.
Oh no.
And oh man, so that was it. That was it. My wife says, like, that's it. When we get back to Canada, our relationship is over. Like, there's no going back from that.
Yeah. Hang on. We gotta do the thing again.
Oh,
You gotta have two turning points. Not often I give two turning points, but tonight we're having two.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
You gotta have fun, bro. You gotta, man.
Oh
So,
yes, 100%.
So now you're back in Canada.
Yeah.
What next?
So that was it. I decided to, give up the alcohol, and when the alcohol affects, you know, with my alcoholism, it was always running to the, drugs, and cocaine was my preferred drug. And so just to kind of help me keep that in balance. So when I gave up the alcohol, the drugs went with it too.
Hmm.
And, this year, I believe I'll be going on to 5 years clean and sober, and definitely not looking to ever going back down those paths and down those roads. I have so much fresh new opportunities now, developing, the men's program, the Men in the North here in the tri community of Larange, Saskatchewan, and helping others is definitely gives me that, I guess, that heroic intelligence
Heroic
to
intelligence.
to help others,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying that, I'm in a good place, where I'm at 110%, but I'm actually improving myself on the day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
and supporting and making sure that I try to bring as many individuals with me as I possibly can is definitely gives me, that meaningful purpose in my life.
I hear that, brother.
Yeah. and,
Absolutely.
and having our weekly workshops, our
Mm-hmm.
nutrition program, our level program where you work your way up to the different levels of the organization
Mm-hmm.
can definitely help with your train of thought,
Mm-hmm.
your speaking, your writing, even getting you outside that comfort zone, and giving you and trying something new, trying something different,
Yeah.
seeing whether or not you like it or not,
Mm-hmm.
and continuing to foster those healthy, positive opportunities.
Yeah. So let's go back for a minute. How did Men of the North come to be? Like, what did you wake up one day and it was just like a bolt of lightning, or how did that work for you?
No, I was actually downtown, and this young man, and I can't remember his name at the time. He came up to me and he was crying, like he was down on his luck. He came up to me crying,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Hey, man, like I just got into an argument with my old lady. She gave me the boot. I have no money to my name. I don't know anybody in this community. I have no clothes. I don't know what to do, and I'm begging. I'm asking for help." And so hey, like let's go, jump in the truck, let's go. And so I took him down to the hotel here in Larange, called the Larange Motor Inn, and I asked the manager, the owner there, it says, "Hey, how much would you charge me to put this young man up in for a one night stay?" And he said, "Hey, give me $40." So I gave him $40, booked him a room, and then I took him for a bite to eat. Um, Cost me $15. Got him a burger and fries. Had a little bit of communication or a little bit of talk with him, and then I says, "You know what? Like, why isn't there, a support group or a support program that's for men,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they go through these difficult situations, when it goes through relationship struggles, and we all have them. We all
Oh,
have those
yes.
relationship problems. So what if there was a program or a group that could help you and to get you out of those negative situations, bring you in, talk with you, work with you, help you, and guide you, and then lift you and give you back that strength and that encouragement to continue doing good for yourself, for your family, and for your community." And so that's when I decided to start a men's support program here. So I went home. I told my wife, I said, "Hun, I'm going to make a men's support program here in the community because I think that it's definitely needed."
Mm-hmm.
And and so I did. I went to work. I did a bunch of research on some men's groups, and there isn't many. There wasn't many at the time. A couple of years ago, I can barely find anything online. It was just kind of putting pieces together,
Mm-hmm.
establishing a structure, putting it down on paper, and then initiating the program. So the program started. The first day was January 26th, 2020, and the night before, January 25th of 2020, I was pacing. I was pacing the room back and forth because I had so much doubt. I did a lot of work. I ordered pizzas, drinks, snacks, door prizes,
Yeah, yeah.
everything that we needed for the group. And I had so much doubt. I had like, this is bullshit. This is not going to work. This is absolute disaster. It's just going to be a big flop. So I had so much doubt, and I was pacing the room back and forth. And my wife sat me down. She says, "Hun, I want you to listen to something." She says that even if you help one person, if only one person shows up to your group meeting, that's all that matters. You don't need 100, 300 people go into your group. As long as you're making a difference in one person, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's such a relief. So I went to bed that night. I had this fucking crazy dream. I had this crazy dream. I dreamt that uh, I seen something floating in the distance, and when it got closer, it got so big that I could not see over it. I could not see around it. And when it went walking away from me, it was so loud. I had to, crouch down and cover my ears that the noise was so loud. And when it stopped, I looked up, and it was a dinosaur, a triceratops. And so the next day, I woke up. I went and asked my elder. I said, I had this crazy dream. I never dreamed like this. This is my first dream that was so realistic in a long time. And I asked him what it was about. And he says, well, maybe it's something to do with your men's group. Maybe it's something that is when you uncover it and you keep on fostering it, it's going to grow into something so massive and so loud that it'll definitely make healthy, positive changes. And so that evening, we had our first men's meeting. There were 16 in attendance.
Pretty good.
March 9th of 2020 rolls around. Just before COVID hit, we had up to 49 people come into the group.
Wow.
Just like within a month and a half.
In La Ronge.
In La Ronge. So
small town,
there was
really.
There was people driving by the sub office that we had the meetings. It was the Pewaupin Women's Center. We had our first meetings. They opened up the doors for the men to start the men's program there in their sub office. And people were driving downtown and seeing all the traffic up and down the block. And they were like, what the hell's going on? And then they found out later on that it was the Men of the North starting the program. And February 11th, we were registered as a nonprofit and just continuing to put our programs, our weekly workshops, our youth mentoring program. We're looking at starting now a father engagement program, level programs, youth mentoring. We're going to continue with our youth mentoring programs and our youth mentoring projects, and just continuing to deliver healthy, positive opportunities there for the men.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, why don't we go into the viewer's voice? There's a couple of questions here. I'm sure we can look into the chat here and find a couple of comments, and we'll just chat some more.
For sure.
So we've got a question here coming all the way from Louisiana. Thanks for the comment, Elizabeth. Elizabeth asks, so is the court system up your way broken as well? Yes. As in, there is no redemption once a mistake has been made as a child. Same issue here in the Deep South. Anything to say to that?
I would say that, there is definitely means to redemptions. We just got to start approaching and figuring out ways on how to help and to, I guess, foster healthy opportunities so that way when individuals get released from the system, that there's a support program or a support system in place that will definitely help them and keep them on the good, positive, healthy path that they need to, and to, as well as to encourage them, give them that recognition, that support that they need, is definitely, the approach that we need to start going down. Because honestly, we keep on locking up people through addictions, through alcohol, through different means of, alcohol and drug related offenses, and some that maybe not even as much, but there is a lot of people behind bars that, are behind there due to drugs or alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people that, often do a lot of stupid shit because they're either intoxicated or they're high on something.
Yeah.
And so we keep on locking these people up thinking that we're gonna, do good. It's just almost, hiding the problem, putting a quick band-aid solution, and then they go in, they become more criminally mind focused. Now you're getting around a lot of people that are, criminally minded people, individuals.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like a school to help foster and to help the growth and to keep that resentment and spite going. So that way, when you get released from there, you go back and do the same, down that same path.
And better at
So
it now.
it definitely, you got
Yeah.
definitely more ideas, suggestions, and different contacts now. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, you definitely
It's a bridge building program.
100%. And I think that, for us to continue going down these paths to incarcerations and institutions and stuff like that without properly supporting, helping them, and guiding them to do better in their lives, then we're just going to continuing to dish out millions and billions of dollars,
Yeah.
keeping individuals locked up in these places.
Yeah. We've got another question coming in from Jenny Churchill. Jenny, it's always nice to see you from Mom Stop the Harm. Jenny asks, are you involved with the Northern Alcohol Program? Excellent program.
Actually, the CAMP program, the Community Alcohol Management Program, definitely could build more relations for sure there. I know that we've been reached out and we've been contacted by them in the past, but we haven't really sat down. And I'm gonna, say COVID. COVID was
Yeah.
definitely a big factor in, helping with building bridges and reducing the restrictions when it comes to drug and alcohol abuse and usage in our communities. So, you got a lot of people staying at home with nothing to do. What else are they gonna do? You're gonna go and grab a case of beer. Get whatever your drug of choices, and sit at home and continuing to use the substances that are provided. And it is not illegal. It is not illegal for us to continue into cause and effects on the drug and alcohol situation, where, like I said, that we often find ourselves in these negative situations due to drugs and alcohol. And it's not illegal because drug or alcohol, you can go down to your corner store and go pick up a box of beer. And I know for myself, for example, being an alcoholic, once I start getting I start feeling the effects of the alcohol and all that type of stuff. I start thinking I'm, 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And I start becoming, an asshole. And I know that there's, a lot of individuals that probably feel that same way or know that they're in that same boat. And oftentimes they find themselves into these negative situations, whether it be through fighting and being charged with, assaults and all that other shit. So it definitely could definitely build and start implementing and fostering the relations there with the alcohol management program.
Got another question from Lisa. Lisa, thank you for the question. Lisa asks, what was the program you went to that was 3 months long, and was there a cost?
Yeah, it was the, is it okay to say the treatment center?
I think so.
I don't know if that's okay.
Yeah, I
it
think
was
so.
the Beaver Lodge treatment facility. I think it was out of Lac La Biche. I'm not 100% sure on the cost of the place, as it was funded and supported by the alcohol or the addictions program that I applied for. So I didn't have to pay out of pocket for that program. And I don't think that it was necessarily, being the First Nation man or whatever, but I think it was put on by the Saskatchewan, I think, who funded and sponsored me to go to the program. So there's definitely ideas, there's definitely funding out there that can definitely help. You just got to start asking and reaching out and seeing what types of supports and funding opportunities that there are there for yourself or for individuals wanting to seek treatment.
Got another one coming in from Roberta. Roberta, thank you so much for the question. Roberta asks, how did you maintain the Men of the North services during COVID?
Oh man, it was tough. It was tough. Like, it was challenging because I've often found myself, put in my, I guess, situations or my myself out on the line in bringing in, a group of men and making sure that there's COVID protocols, guidelines, making sure that things are in place to make sure that it's not going to be an area where everybody's going to be affected and then cause an outbreak. So during the COVID times, I think it was March 9th when we shut down the program, we went to the online format. We went to Google Meets, and then we went to Zoom, and we just kept on going through the weekly. I think 3 times a week on the online programs. We had Monday evenings, Thursday evenings, and Friday or Saturday morning at midnight programs going on.
Got a comment coming in here from Candace. Thanks for the comment, Candace. Candace says, we sure are fortunate to have you here in L'Orange. You do so much for our community. I appreciate your candor, Chris. This is a terrific interview. Oh my. So eye-opening.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
thank you. Oh, Candace does a lot of work for us. She did a lot of photography, pictures and stuff in the past for us. Definitely love the photos, the photo ops, all that type of stuff. So she did definitely and advocates for the program for us too. So if I ever need additional resources or help, Candace is always there, willing to give the program a hand.
Awesome. All right, my friend. Well, the comments and questions have died down. Is there anything that you would like to leave us with tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I feel, I guess, that I should say, one thing that I guess I've been learning over the past course of the Men in the North program, being, just over the 2-year mark now, is for the men out there that are interested in coming and being a part of the program. By all means, you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to participate. You're more than welcome to come in. We offer the nutrition program, all that type of stuff. We got, level program for you to be involved with and work your way up. And then once you get to the leadership position, we can put you through training programs and modules and all that type of stuff. So the Men in the North is a program where all members collaborate on a vision that is noble and worthy, helping men to become self-aware, self-compassion, and become more self-forgiven to further obtain their self-respect, so that they will become better communicators in their helping to get their lives together and shouldering the responsibilities of the world in a manner that is good for them, their families, and their communities.
Awesome.
So, like I said, I'm going to leave you. I'll leave everybody with one, piece of advice. Is even for the youth, even for whoever's listening out there, is don't think that you're so high and mighty that you cannot take advantage of the humble opportunities that are granted to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Chris. Thank you for sharing your experience, strength, and hope, and we'll see you again, I am sure. Take care.
Hey.
There is power in numbers. If you would like to contribute to ending the stigma around emotional pain, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitch, Facebook, and Instagram. Like and comment your thoughts on our posts. Let us come together with our lived and living experience as a resource that has the power to engage new thought processes, to promote new ideas, to broaden the spectrum of care, and to show the world that we can recover. There is a safer way, and we're here to show you how. Good night.